Hey guys, welcome to Artilleros. Welcome to my first ever attempt at live streaming on YouTube, as also my first attempt at a podcast. Um, as you can probably tell, I'm a little bit nervous, so it's probably going to be a bit ghetto. Um, but hopefully it'll be good, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. Okay, so let's have a look. Okay, so I figured the first thing I'll probably do is uh, introduce myself, give you guys a bit of an introduction into me, who I am, and why I support the clubs that I do. So the first thing is my name's Dan. I'm 32-ish, 32 or 33, 32. And I'm English, as you can tell by the accent. Um, I happen to live in Western Australia, in Perth, to be precise. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm English and live in Australia. So yeah, I feel I'd get into my clubs and why I support them, just to give you guys a bit of a background information so you can have a bit of context. As you can tell from behind me, an Arsenal fan. They're my first love, my true love in respect to football. I became a fan of them in the very beginning of the 97-98 season. I was 10 years old. Um, in the UK, there used to be a little magazine. Came out weekly called Match, as in football match. And I collected that, and I saw a poster of Emmanuel Petit actually, um, wearing the Arsenal kit. And honestly, the kit, I fell in love with the kit before I fell in love with the club. Before I knew anything about the club, really, I fell in love with the kit. Um, I was looking for a club to support. All my friends supported Man United. All the cool kids at school supported Man United. Some Chelsea. A couple of Aston Villa fans, but mainly Man United. They were the big team at the time. I didn't really want to support Man United. They weren't really ever a club that I connected with. I was never really a glory hog in that sense. But yeah, I fell in love with the kit and the poster, started reading up with it, realised that they were a London club, which was good. I got close ties to London. I was born in Sutton, in Surrey, which is South London, not really too close to London, but still. I also used to go into London quite a lot for surgeries and stuff, so I had a little bit of an affinity to London as a city. So I figured, them being in London, I thought, okay, that's cool. Started to get to know the players. Very quickly fell in love with Dennis Bergkamp. I thought he was the best player in the world, probably up until we had Henry. So yeah, the 97-98 season, we were at the beginning, I was 10. Obviously, ended up winning the double that year. I still remember the FA Cup final, especially. I believe it was against Newcastle. I believe Mark Overmars scored as well in that game. But yeah, it was a really good summer's day. And yeah, I thought, you know what, this team is awesome. This plays really well, really good attacking football. And I kind of want to support them and see how they go and follow them. Players like Mark Overmars, Dennis Bergkamp, David Seaman, Tony Adams, especially Tony Adams, man, he's a legend. So yeah, that's kind of why I support Arsenal. I haven't really looked back. Obviously, there's been more down times more than up times, but the up times have been awesome. Obviously, the double winning season, the unbeaten season, can't miss that out. But there have been, especially recently, there's been a lot of down times. Obviously, Wenger left in a little bit of a cloud. He could have left in a little bit of a better time for him, but obviously he didn't. But obviously he did win a few FA Cups. I think he's still the record holder for the FA Cups trophies. So there is a little bit of positivity, but at the same time, we haven't won the league in I think it's decades now. Too long, really. We should be challenging. We should be up there, Liverpool, in my opinion. But we're not at the moment. But hopefully, Unai Emery can come in and change things around for us. But anyway, I don't want to dwell too much on Arsenal's problems at the moment. Plenty of time for that in the future. So yeah, my other team, sorry, is Chivas de Guadalajara, from Mexico's Liga MX. Um, a lot of people in Australia, especially all my Arsenal friends in Australia, are like always asking me like, why Mexico, why Chivas, why Mexico? Um, I did write a blog about it, which I might put in the comments down below. I might just give out a link to it, explaining it in a bit of detail. I'm not going to go into much detail because I don't want to ramble on too much about it. But yeah, basically, I watched the 2014 World Cup in Brazil, here in Perth, obviously, but I watched it on TV. And Mexico were one of the teams I was supporting, due to a girl that I used to like. And yeah, they played really well. They had Brazil in their group. Obviously, Brazil were hosting, so they were one of the favourites to win the World Cup. But obviously, it's Brazil, one of the best footballing countries in the world. Um, I'll always remember the nil-nil draw that Mexico had in the group stage against Brazil. Ochoa playing out of his skin. Um, I thought, okay, this is a team that are pretty good. I didn't know too much about Mexico at the time. I knew Chicharito from Man United. I knew the Dos Santos brothers. I knew Marquez from his Barcelona days. But I didn't really know too much about the squad or the manager or their style of play as such. They were kind of new, and they surprised me, pleasantly surprised me. I thought, okay, this is a team that I can enjoy watching. I want to enjoy the team. I want to know more about these players and what clubs they play for, and especially the younger players. Lozano hadn't come out then, but there were a lot of younger players. Vela, obviously, he wasn't playing in the World Cup at the time, but I knew about him through his Arsenal days, and at the time they were still relatively young, so there was a bit of a future for them. So after the World Cup, I was like, okay, I want to start following Mexican players, and the players in particular. Maybe not the national team as a game by game friendlies and all that. I was mainly focusing at the time at the start, mainly focusing on the players themselves, learning who they were, who they played for, how good they were, and especially the younger players. So I started following the Mexican national team. Started following podcasts, the FitMex Nation, especially. Massive props to them. Shout out to them for their Mexican soccer show on Monday nights. Well, technically it's Tuesday mornings my time, but Monday nights in their time. Massive information hub, really, if you want to learn anything about Mexico, Mexican football. The players, the Mexican European players and the domestic players, they're the best place to go to because that's their job. They write about it, they talk about it day in, day out. So I learned a lot through them. Also learned a lot through Pancho Villa's Army, the fan website group, YouTube channel, especially YouTube channel at the beginning. I follow them a lot. Obviously, they provided a little bit more of a different perspective than FitMex Nation. It was a lot more of a fan orientated perspective. They had watch parties and they did a lot of videos at the beginning of games, and I like that. That was part of um, the push for me, the temptation to keep going in learning about Mexican football because the fans were having such an amazing time. I was like so jealous that I couldn't go to these watch parties and I think they call them tailgate parties. Always wanted to go to one now. I'm going to go one day. So yeah, a couple of different perspectives. I spent a couple of years pretty much learning about the Mexican team, the national team mainly, through FitMex Nation, through them talking about the Mexican national team. I started learning more about the Liga MX, the league, the layout, the format of the league, the 2 leagues per calendar year thing. Also, some of the clubs' histories, their managers, their players, who were good, who were not so good, who were the best players, who were the best clubs in the league. Um, so after probably got to early 2016, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to support a team. I've been learning about this league now for a couple of years almost. I want to have a team to support because I wanted to be a part of it. I felt like up to that point, I felt like a bit more of a observer, a researcher, not an actual fan. I wanted to be an actual fan. So I started thinking about what club to support. And Chivas pretty much, it felt right. Obviously, that whole 100% Mexico thing, it felt like an extension to the national team in the sense that it was all Mexico, it was all Mexican football, all Mexican players, sorry. Um, it felt the next step. It also happily coincided with their last big successful run, which they won the double, obviously, that year. Um, Another part of the reason why I support Chivas actually is because they brought Pulido in. I knew Pulido from his Olympiacos days when he was in Olympiacos, even though he was kind of still a Tigres player, I believe, at the time. He was playing for Olympiacos, so he didn't really do great over there, to be fair, but that's how I learned of him. And his whole kidnapping thing and his car crash. He's had quite an interesting life, to be fair. But I was a fan of him for a while, and Chivas signed him, and I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. I want to follow him. I want to follow Chivas now, even more so because they've got him. Um, so yeah, Chivas, when winning the double, I thought, okay, I started supporting Arsenal. They won the double. Started supporting Chivas. They've won the double. It kind of felt right. They're both red and white, which is nice. A lot of similarities, really. They both, at their best, play attacking, beautiful football. And they've both had a lot of down, negative times recently, which I'll get into a bit later on. So yeah, I wanted to become. Basically, I became a Chivas fan to be a fan. So I could talk about it in a fan's perspective, and not just in a researching um, outside perspective. So yeah, I've taken Chivas to heart. Obviously, I've got Chivas jersey now. Waited years to get that, which I'm very happy about, very proud about. Um, yeah, so basically, going back to the whole Mexico thing, I actually wanted, when they were playing in the 2014 Brazil World Cup, I actually wanted Arsenal to sign Ochoa at the time. And it was well known that Arsenal were in the market for a goalkeeper, and they ended up buying Ospina, who again had a good World Cup, that World Cup. But there was a lot of rumours that Arsenal were going to get Ochoa, and his performances in that World Cup, I was like, we have to buy him. He's going to be awesome. Obviously, it didn't work out, but Ochoa is another player that I've followed ever since 2014. Massively underrated goalkeeper, I think, in outside of Mexico, in Europe. I think he's underrated. A few die-hard football fans know who he is and know what he's capable of, and probably would agree with me. But he's massively underrated and should have gone into a bigger team than his Belgium team currently. But that's an argument for another day. So yeah, it's a little bit of an introduction to me. Obviously, I'm English. I live in Western Australia. I've got two teams, Arsenal and Chivas. In that order, Arsenal are my number one club. Chivas are my number two, but I love them both for their own unique reasons. So that's mainly my introduction to myself. I hope you are interested to keep going. I want to keep this podcast going probably weekly, within reason. Obviously, I've got a job, so I have to take that into consideration. But I'm hoping to keep it going weekly, cover the games, cover any news. Eventually, when I get into the rhythm of it, I might include the wider news of the leagues, other teams, maybe like the City, Liverpool, title race, maybe the club Lions, title push this season as well. But at the moment, I'm just going to focus on Chivas and Arsenal at the moment, their games and their players and news for the both clubs. So yeah, that's the introduction to me. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you stick around. I hope that you're interested in what I have to say. It's a little bit ghetto at the moment. I'm a little bit rambling at the moment, mainly because it's my first time. I've never been on YouTube Live before, never done a podcast before, never been on a podcast before. But through discomfort you grow. So hopefully I grow. So I just wanted to go. That was my first half. Probably aiming for half an hour for this first episode. Maybe once I get into the rhythm, it might be an hour long. We'll see. So yeah, that's the first half of this episode. The second half, I want to go into a little bit the last games, the current runs that both Arsenal and Chivas are on at the moment. I'll start with Arsenal first. Obviously, not doing too well in the league at the moment. We were doing brilliantly midway through the season. It looked like we could get third. We looked like we could pick Tottenham third. That would have been amazing, to be honest, given the last couple of years we've had. But obviously, we had to go. Us being Arsenal, we had to go lose against Palace and at Wolves. 2 games we theoretically should have won, especially Palace. Palace aren't that great. They're not great at the Emirates. They were away. We were at home. We should have won that game. We didn't. It is what it is. And then we played Wolves and we lost to them as well. That one I wasn't so surprised about. I was disappointed, obviously, but I wasn't surprised. Wolves are a very good team. They've done brilliantly. They kind of remind me a little bit of Leicester the year before they won the league, where they were newly promoted. No one gave them any credit. No one ever gave them any chance. They surprised everyone. They finished higher. They finished higher than they thought they were going to. Higher than everyone else thought they were going to anyway. But Wolves have done amazing. They spent a lot in summer, but they've done amazing to be in the potential Europa League spot for the next season after just being in the league. And they haven't been in the Premier League for a few years either. So it's even more of a triumphant season for them. It's a little bit of a side note for Raul Jimenez, the Mexican striker. What a season he's had. Coming from Benfica, he wasn't a main player for Benfica. He wasn't a top player for them. He wasn't their main striker. That's why they let him go on loan. But what a season he's had. No one gave him any chance. No one knew who he was, really. I had my doubts whether he could do it in the Premier League. Premier League's tough. It may not be, quote unquote, the best league in the world, but it's definitely one of the toughest. It reminds me a little bit of Liga MX in terms of anyone could beat anyone on any day. Anyone could beat anyone in the Premier League, in my opinion, at any time. So for Jimenez to make that jump, I thought, okay, maybe. The positive thing for me was that he looked up for it. He looked up for the challenge. He looked like he knew that it was going to be a huge challenge, and he was up for it. He was hungry for it. And I remember his first press conference, or his first interview he did for Wolves on their website. He answered them all. He did it all in English, and you could tell that it wasn't. It wasn't one of his best languages. You could tell that he only recently started learning English. He didn't know it very well, but he still did it in English, and I think he did it pretty well considering. And for me, that was like, okay, he's up for it. He wants it. He's he's fired up for it. He's going to try, and that's what I really wanted him to do at the beginning of the season. I wanted him to try. I wanted to try and score goals. But he's blown my expectations out of the water. I mean, he's on double digits now. I think he's on like 12 goals or something. A bunch of assists. He's not just a goal scorer like Chicharito is. He's very much part of the team. He's part of the attacking play. He's got a bunch of assists. He knows when to pass it to another player to score, and he knows when to take a shot himself. And he's very much part of the squad now, and obviously they proved that when they recently bought him. I think it was for 40 million euros, which I think is it's definitely a Wolves record anyway. However much they pay for him, and for me that shows that they consider him a key part of the squad. They didn't have to buy him. They could have saved the money and went out in the summer and get another striker. They're going to because they're going to get a bunch of money for being in the a European spot next year. So they could have not bought him, but they did, and that's a massive vote of confidence. Hopefully, it's a confidence boost for him. Hopefully, he's like, well, okay, I've got somewhere now where I'm loved and I'm needed, and I can fight for the team. Hopefully, he scores a bunch more in the next few games. There's only 2 or 3 games left in the season, but hopefully, he scores a bunch more, assists a bit more. I think he's the top scorer outside of the top 6 as well, which is awesome. So yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a side note, but unfortunately, Arsenal lost. I went off for a bit of a tangent then, but sorry. Yeah, Arsenal lost the 2 games that they should have won. Obviously, 4th is looking realistic now. Obviously, we're fighting with United and Chelsea now for 4th. It's going to be down to the wire. I think we need to start winning. We need to win next few games. Obviously, it's going to be a fight. Champions League for me next season, however we get it, is a must, in my opinion. We need Champions League football. Otherwise, we've got another season of potentially not spending very much, potentially a lower caliber of players, because obviously the top players want Champions League. And we need a new defender. I think we need a new winger. We don't have any real wingers. Iwobi is not good enough, in my opinion, but that's an argument for another day. So yeah, not doing too great in the league at the moment. We are into the semi-finals of the Europa League, which is good. We comfortably beat Napoli over 2 legs in the quarters. Against Valencia, though, Valencia are a tough team. Easily, apart from Chelsea, they're the best team that we could have had in the semis. I think Arsenal Valencia could have made a really good final, in my opinion. So it's a massive test. We need to win it. We need to win the Europa League this year. We should have won it last year. Atletico Madrid was too good for us. But however we get it, we need Champions League football. Otherwise, we could be in for another long season. Despite the positive changes Unai Emery's made. But we'll go into that next episode. So finally, for the final part of this pod, I wanted to go through Chivas' form, or lack of form. Again, it's not very positive at the moment. Pretty negative, actually. I mean, we had a really good start to the season. I think we won like the first 2 or 3 games on the bounce. We were like first for a couple of weeks. And then it all went to pear shape. It all went to pot, really. It all went downhill from there. Cardoso started off all right. He seemed to have stabilised the defensive errors. Almeida when he left, left Chivas open. It was almost like we had to score more than the opposition to win. So Cardoso is a very defensive manager, coach, but he seemed to have fixed the defensive issues. Obviously, attacking wise, we haven't really clicked attacking wise for about 2 years now, a year and a half, 2 years. I hoped Vega coming in would fix it. Kind of did for a little while. Absolutely destroyed that Atlas. Got his hat trick. That was an amazing game. So happy for Vega. Vega's now my favorite Mexican Liga MX playing player at the moment. Pulido was for a while, but Vega, man, he scored twice against Chivas in successive seasons for Toluca, and I thought, okay, this kid's going somewhere. And also, he reminds me a lot of Alexis Sanchez, actually, physically. Both have number 7s. They look similar as well. I find anyway, but that's up for debate. So yeah, it's not very good for Chivas at the moment. I think they've lost their last 5 league games in a row. They got a draw before that, and they won their game before that. So in 7 games, they've lost 5, drawn 1, and won 1. That's horrific form. That's relegation form, in my opinion. 2 managers later, I don't really know much about the interim coach or the coach they've got in now. Boy, I think his name is. Don't know anything about him. I know that he's a Liga MX regular. They like to recycle their managers. And this is an example of it. He hasn't had much to work with. I think he needs a transfer window under his belt, getting a couple of players that he likes, that he wants, get rid of a couple of players. I'll go into a bit more transfery things with both clubs nearer the time, just so you know. Probably episode 3 or 4. So yeah, it's not good. Out of the Copa MX, which would have been a handy trophy to win, would have given the team confidence boost, but rather that got knocked out of that by Club America of all teams. So yeah, not really much to be positive about for either team, especially Chivas. Chivas, I think, are in the worst position at the moment. It all depends for me on what they do in the transfer window, who they sell. They need to sell some players, I think, as well as buy players. We bought in a load of players over the winter. Hasn't really clicked. Buying a lot of players in one go never works, in my opinion. No matter who you are, or no matter how much money you spend on them. Vega needs to start playing more. For some reason, Boy doesn't play Vega, doesn't like him for some reason. I think he needs to play. I think he needs to be the starting striker with Pulido as Cam, with Brizuela and maybe Lopez on the wings. I think they're Chivas' best attacking lineup, in my opinion. But for me, it's the defense. The defense. Cadino potentially could be one of Mexico's top goalkeepers. A potential successor to Ochoa in a few years. Nowhere near ready yet, but in a few years he could be. Who else? Basulto. I think he needs to leave. I think Marin needs to leave. Pereira for me is still up there. But yeah, new centre back, at least one top centre back. I think we need a better midfielder. Sorry, I think the midfielders we've got Villalpando. I'm forgetting somebody, but with the midfielders we have at the moment are not good enough in my opinion. We need a new centre back. We need a new centre midfielder as well. But for me, the coach has to get the best out of this attacking players. If Pulido, Vega, Brizuela, and Lopez all click, all play regularly, all click, all get used to each other, they could be a really good force. It's just it hasn't really worked out so far. It hasn't really clicked for them, especially Vega. Vega's only scored in the one game, even though he got a hat trick. Atlas was just terrible. I think there was more to do with Atlas being terrible than Chivas being good. But Vega for me is the future striker for the Mexican national team. I think Chicharito and Jimenez, especially Jimenez, have it for Mexico for at least until the end of Qatar, 2022. After that, Vega might come in. He's young enough. He's got room for improvement. But we'll have to see what happens. So yeah, I thought I wanted to do my first episode to be a little bit of introduction to myself, and also a little bit of a rundown on the last games that both Chivas and Arsenal played. I think that will be the main segment of my podcast for the foreseeable future. Current games, current teams, their previous games, their next games, that kind of thing is going to be my main focus. But also, eventually, as I said, I'll be talking more about the leagues in general, the other teams, other news. Obviously, the summers as well. Obviously, Mexico's got the Gold Cup coming up. Arsenal in the US, I believe, in the summer for their preseason, so that'll be fun to watch. I believe Chivas are playing a few European teams as well in the summer. I think Real Madrid and Roma, if I remember correctly. Roma especially, I think, could be a really good game. hopefully Chivas will brought a few new players in before then, just to spice things up, get a little bit of positivity going around. There's not really much positivity in Chivas or Arsenal at the moment. It'd be nice to start getting some wins. If Arsenal can get the Champions League, if Chivas can start win the next few games, finish the season a little bit of a high, then the summer's going to be positive, and next season for both teams could be a positive change for them. But anyway, we've reached about half an hour now. I'll probably keep it half an hour for today. Hopefully, I haven't rambled on too much. Obviously, it's my first time, but I won't have that excuse next time. Hopefully, it'll be a weekly thing. Work roster pending. But yeah, half an hour of my week shouldn't be too much of an issue to organise. But yeah, so hopefully you guys are interested. You've been entertained. Hopefully you've learned a little bit more about me, about why I support the clubs I do. If you've got any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. I will read all my comments if I get any. I will read them all. I will answer them all. I'll probably answer them all in the next podcast as well, just so that you have a bit of interaction with me directly as well as in the comments. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you will be back for more. Hopefully you didn't get bored and fall asleep. So yeah, hopefully it'll be next week. I'll be back next week, and hopefully I'll have a bit more positive things to say about both clubs. So yeah, stay tuned. Thank you again, and take it easy. Cheers.